So I received my World Championship gold medal in a pub car park in Birmingham.
Apparently, in 1996, when you were there was 15,000 condoms supplied to the athletes' village.
14,000 were mine. Yeah.
Nice. I was hoping that as an Olympic silver medalist, the athletes' village was the only place you would have managed to come first.
Very good. In the Olympic Village in Atlanta, it was so big, they had like golf buggies, golf carts to drive the athletes around. Anyway, so the last night I'd had a couple of jars and I fancied a McDonald's. So I remember Darren Campbell had taught me how to hot wire one. So I did. And I'd been seen by the security and they chased me in their golf buggy and I was in the golf buggy.
It's the slowest police chase since OJ. Do you know what I mean? There's two golf carts going. Hello, and welcome to the Mildly Controversial Podcast. On this week's show, we have somebody who is a world champion, an Olympic silver medalist, a European record holder for 27 years, two-time European champion, a Commonwealth champion, and somebody who held the UK record for 400 metres from 1997 to 2022. And also was awarded MBE in 1998. It's IWAN Thomas.
Hello, that was literally spot on. That was a great intro. Thank you.
You have to thank me and also Wikipedia. So thanks to everybody who put all that stuff on Wikipedia. So far, like loads of this research I've done on you tonight is clearly from Wikipedia, but so far everything's right. Is that all of that stuff is correct?
Well, just about. I think you said European record holder for 27 years. I think you promoted me. I think I had the European Championship record for it was a bit less than 27 years. But listen, at my age, I'll take it. So let's leave it at 27. Sounds
sorry,
great.
Mate. It's 27 now. I've said it out loud. It's true.
Thank you. It must be.
It's worth noting as well. One of those golds was awarded 10 years after you'd actually done the event, isn't it?
Yeah, that was a weird one. So it was the World Champs 1997 4x4, just missing out to the USA, which happened quite a lot, if I'm honest with you. But yeah, we did our little lap of honour in second place. Got on the rostrum, felt okay. We were a little bit disappointed we hadn't won it, and then like 13 years later, we get told, "Oh, you are world champ," because two of the athletes failed a drugs test. So it was a bit of sweet, to be honest with you. So we were world champions, but we never got that lap of honour as world champions. We never have 13 years as sponsorship money as world champions. It was a bit of a hollow victory, if I'm honest with you. So, yeah, it's a weird...
Yeah, I was just saying, because it's in the record books, is that? And then obviously there's a bit of a caveat saying you received it 2 years before you retired. Was it 2006 you finally got it?
Yeah, I think so. I can't even remember when we got it. But yeah, it was a long time after when it happened. I'm a lot slower by the time I got it, put it that
way. So did you... how was that presented? Who presented it to you?
Oh, horrific. Honestly, it's one of the saddest stories of my career. So I received my World Championship gold medal in a pub car park in Birmingham. We never even had like an official, you are world champions. It was, it wasn't handled very well, if I'm honest with you. It was quite bad in terms of, I assumed as well, when you win a medal from a major championship, normally the medals, they represent more than just, oh, you're a world champion, you're a European champion. The medals are pretty beautiful. So the ones from Athens, they had Greek mythology on them. The actual medal itself was really, really pretty. So I assumed the Americans cheated. They would physically give back their gold medals. We'd get given those. But what actually happened was they didn't even have a mould of the original medals. It was just like a gold coin with a stamp on it saying IWF World Champions 1997 Great Britain. It didn't even look like the proper gold medal. So yeah, it's one of those ones where I'm really proud. Yeah, I've been a world champion, but it doesn't feel like it. On the one hand, I hate them for cheating, but actually the two athletes who failed a drugs test, I respect them because they were honest. They didn't actually get caught and failed a drugs test back in 97. It was years later, and they put their hands up and retrospectively said, listen, if we're going to be honest, we were cheating in Athens in 97 as well. So I respect them for having the decency to, be honest about it. But unfortunately, one of the athletes, Antonio Pettigrew, sadly took his life the year after this came out in the press. So it's actually a very sad story all round.
So yeah, that's pretty. I can understand that. That's got to be bittersweet. You wish you had your moment of glory, but then again, total respect for the guys that fessed up in the end.
Yeah,
and I mean, it must have really affected somebody so much to take their own life. I mean, that's tragic.
Tragic. It's so sad because he was a well-respected athlete as well. And listen, I don't condone any drugs cheating. It cost me a lot of medals in my career, but as strange as it sounds, he was actually a really good guy. And actually, that came as a bit of a shock that he was a drug cheat, because in my eyes, I'm no expert with it, but I associate drugs cheats as the kind of meatheads in the gym and bulging muscles everywhere, aggressive. You can tell they're a bit dodgy. This guy was like a race whippet. He was skinny. He was a beautiful looking runner. The way his running style, he was fluent, and I respected him a lot. And then when it came out, he failed drugs tests. I was like, I'll beat him. I was actually really shocked. But the whole thing's quite sad, really, because we didn't. Your career is very short-lived as an athlete, and we didn't get that moment of glory. We should have been world champions on the night, and that was taken away from us. So when I look back at my career, it's one of the saddest things. I should sit here and say I was a world champion. That's amazing, but in reality, the whole thing that surrounded those championships was pretty sad. But hey, it's life. We move on.
Talk me through then. I mean, you said that it was awarded in a car park in Birmingham. How does that happen? What? Talk us through how that happened.
Well, I think it happened because I think the sport was going through a bit of a strange phase at the time, and I think the governing body didn't really want to draw any more attention to the fact that, unfortunately, people do bad things, and in sport this happens, and drugs cheats are not liked within professional sport. Clearly they're not. So I think what happened was, rather than do a big press announcement and wait for the London Olympics or wherever it might be, and then we get our moment of glory, waves to the British crowd, I don't think they wanted that. I think they almost wanted to be hush hush. The less we talk about that, the better. And unfortunately, we were not the scapegoats, but we were the victims of that, if I'm honest with you. Whereas in reality, bloody too right, they should have made a song and dance about that. We were good athletes.
I was going to say, you're a team of four as well, aren't you? So, I mean, were you all together, or did they just sort of meet you individually?
Individually.
Oh, that's even worse, isn't it? Yeah.
You're in a car park in Birmingham. I was like, Roger Black's at Waitrose.
No,
he's just like, you can have that. Like, he's in the middle of his shot.
Roger's is even worse. Roger receives his in the post. He's got his medal in the post. Yeah.
Wow.
So I should be grateful it was in the pub car park in lovely Birmingham. But no, I'm not. I don't blame the governing body for it. I just it's a bit of a societal thing, I think. I don't know, it just was at a time where, as I said, I think they wanted to just sort of get it done and keep it under the carpet, so to speak. But it's a shame. It is a shame.
So do you still have the original silver medal as well then?
Too bloody right. I'm not giving that back. Yeah.
And does it say on it silver medal, or is it just a medal?
It's just silver, and it will say a world champion of silver,
I'm going to start a campaign where they take that away and wrap it in gold leaf and give you the gold medal you deserve. Let's make this happen.
Thank you very much, Mike. That would be lovely. Yeah, gold leaf.
So you retired in 2008.
2006, I think. Do you know what, Baz?
Oh, yeah, sorry, yeah.
Well, I didn't actually... No, you're not correct or incorrect. I didn't actually officially ever retire, which was a bit of a weird one. My career was cut really short. It just through injuries, and it took me a long, long time to get over the fact I didn't get my chance to have my final hurrah and sort of, get another medal and retire. My body kind of let me down. So I couldn't actually face saying the words, I'm never going to run again, if I'm honest with you. So I just had a really bad experience when I did decide to quit, but I never admitted that, and I just kind of fizzled out. And it was kind of a sad ending to something I loved. I loved being an athlete, and if I could turn back the time, I'd love to. Well, we all would love to be 20 years younger, but I'd love to still be competing, and there's so much I miss about that life. But I never officially retired.
I was going to say, though, because around about 2008 was when BMX was introduced to the Olympics, wasn't it? I just wondered, did you think that maybe there was a chance to go for gold again in that? Because you were a former champion BMX rider, weren't you?
Yeah, too old now. But yeah, when I did my BMXing from the age of about, 11 to 16, it was kind of a bit nichey, although it was a big sport. It was cool. It was a bit underground. But now, as you said, it's Olympic event, and everyone loves watching BMX races on TV. So yeah, that sport, funny enough, taught me so much about myself growing up as a kid. I think if I hadn't been a BMXer, I wouldn't have been an athlete. I wouldn't have been a successful athlete because, I learned how to win. I learned how to lose. I learned how to focus. I learned how to be determined. I learned how to be tough. BMXing taught me so much. So when I came to athletics, I knew the pitfalls. Different sports, but all sports have got a massive crossover. They really have.
One of the things I need to, this being the mildly controversial podcast, let's get involved on the mildly controversial part. Is IWAN Thomas is a very Welsh name for somebody born in Farnborough.
It very much is, and it caused quite arguments in our household growing up in terms of when I started to break through in athletics. I had a decision to make. My dad's from North London and very, very English, and my mum's from North Wales, Welsh speaking, very, very Welsh. And do I run for England? Do I run for Wales? And for me, there was never ever a choice. It was always going to be Wales. I grew up in England. I've never lived in Wales. I spent all my summer holidays to visit my gran, but I classify myself 100% through and through as Welsh. With the name I just said, IWAN Thomas, I was always going to compete for Wales. And I can tell you, growing up, when rugby was on in my house, my mum and dad would tear chunks out of each other, England playing Wales. But no, for me, it was always going to be Wales. And, I'm really pleased I made that decision. They're a great nation, and I was really proud to represent Wales. Because remember, as an athlete, it doesn't happen very often. The Commonwealth Games used to be every 4 years. So normally, Europeans, Worlds, Olympics, you're running for Great Britain. It's only every 4 years at the Commonwealth, it's the home nation. So with a 4x4, for example, me, Jamie Walsh, Roger Black, Mark Richardson, that's the British team. But come the Commonwealth Games, it was me and Jamie Walsh for Wales versus those two for England. So it was a brilliant little divide. When we rarely raced against each other, it was fearsome.
I mean, there's always the added benefit of it's easier to qualify for the Welsh Commonwealth Games team as well. Do you know what I mean?
Yes, but without sounding an arrogant prick, I was good enough to run for England. So it wasn't.
I know you really. The only reason I mentioned that is just to give you a bit of a dig. And
it's true though.
You're right. But weirdly, my wife did it the other way around. My wife was a competitive swimmer in her younger life, and she was born in Ireland, moved to England when she was 3, something like that. Did all her training in England, and when it came to Commonwealth Games qualification, she was less than a second away from qualifying for the England team because she felt I've been trained by I owe it to the England setup to try and qualify for the England team. She was less than a second away from qualifying for the Commonwealth Games for the England team. Whereas if she'd have gone for the Ireland team, she'd have waltzed in. You know what I mean? She'd have been the fastest time. So. It was just a dig so that I had the opportunity to show off about my wife being good at swimming.
Well, no, it's good she's good at swimming as well. But yeah, it's a dig that I kind of not deserve, but I get asked that dig quite a lot.
Yeah, I can imagine.
But if I'm honest, if I was on the verge of making the Welsh team, but no chance for England, then I probably would have. That's why I would have gone for Wales. But for me, luckily, it was at a time when I could argue I should have gone for England because I would have won more because the strength and depth in England's better. The Welsh 4x4 wasn't as good as the English 4x4, but no chance. I was always going to compete for Wales.
Let's face it, Vinnie Jones, are you? You didn't have to go to Wales because you couldn't get the England side.
No, as I said, my mum would only speak to me and my brother as we were babies in Welsh, but he'd pick up nothing. So I don't sound Welsh. I don't speak Welsh, but I classify myself as Welsh, and I had some good years in that Welsh Red Vest, and I was Welsh Sports Personality of the Year, and I owe a lot.
Again, that's easier to win.
100%. No, you are right. It is.
Until Gareth Bale turned up,
it
was a shoo-in.
Well, no, because I had Giggsy, Ryan Giggs. The first year I was runner-up. Ryan Giggs had won it, and I was runner-up, and I was, it was a ledge. But then I got it in 1998. But yeah.
Okay, well, what I need to tell you, Ewan, is this isn't the first time we've met.
Go on.
And I know that, yeah. And
I've been waiting for this story.
Yeah. When he said we had you as a guest, I was like, oh, I've got a story about you and Thomas I need to tell. So,
oh my God, should I prepare myself?
Don't panic. We haven't actually met. We've been in close proximity, but this is how, when Baz said, look, for the sake of everybody who's listening and everyone who's been listening or watching for a good amount of time, I think this might be the first guest that Baz has arranged.
No, I've done more than that.
Maybe a
Come
few.
on,
Anyway,
Baz.
normally getting the guests lined up is my job. So when Baz said we've got you and Thomas, I was like buzzing, and I remembered this story. So I've got notes over here because I've got an old man's brain. So you and I are the same age.
Yeah.
And in 2010, when we were both 36-year-olds, we both entered the Manchester 10K, the great Manchester run. Okay?
Yeah.
So from my experience of that race is I was heading to the finish line, and this flame-haired athlete comes tearing past me just as I'm about to get to the finish line. And I'm thinking, fucking hell, that's you and Thomas. I've only just, by a really small margin, been beaten to the finish line by you and Thomas. So I'm feeling really good about myself. And then just 3 more steps later, I look up at the clock, right? And there's one clock that says 57 minutes. And then there's another clock, and I need to check my numbers here, but there's another clock, right, with the colour of your bib on it that says 41 minutes.
Oh,
so for about 4 seconds, I felt on top of the world because I'd only just been pipped to the finish line by an Olympic athlete. But it turns out, I've done my calculations because I'm that type of person. It turns out I effectively gave you a 3-kilometre head start.
There you go.
You gave me... Sorry. I effectively, you gave me a 3-kilometre head start and I still lost. So 4 seconds of my life, I was like, I'm amazing. So...
Well, we finished together. It was just a different start time. But we finished together.
I mean, let's get back in that time machine you wanted to get in, and let's literally hold hands and just have some beautiful moment of running across the finish line.
Your story of We Met Before could have been a lot worse. It reminded me of many years ago, I did MasterChef, and I made the final, and I was very, very proud, but I thought I was never going to make it. In the semi-final, we're about to film, and MasterChef, let me tell you, is the most traumatic experience ever. It's the scariest program. They're ruthless. It's just horrible. Anyway, we're about to film the semi-final. Microphones are on. We're stood behind our workplace. John Turode walks in with a blonde lady, and I recognise her, and I'm thinking, I know her. Where do I know her? He's eyeballing me, right? And all the crew are there. Cameramen, sound, makeup department, food, hygienists, they're all there. And he said, all right, yeah? And I went, yeah. And it all goes quiet. And he said, just before we start filming, recognise my wife, don't you? And at this point, the sweat is dripping. And I'm literally thinking back to my past. I think, do I know her now? Because I definitely knew her. And he just kept me hanging. And he said, yeah, you've had a night out with my wife, haven't you? And I'm like, I'm thinking in my head, I'm about to take part in the semi-final. And he said, you can stop sweating now. He was a mate of yours who ended up with my wife that night. But yeah, so basically what happened many years before, I'd been out with a couple of mates and there was a judo guy with us, and he bumped into his wife, and let's just say I think they became very, very friendly that night. But I knew her from somewhere, but it was horrific. So at least our meeting story doesn't involve me. Haven't I?
You haven't heard my story yet.
Hey, listen, I'll remember you, Baz, in those situations. Big bearded man like you.
Baz looked very different back in the day. Very different.
Especially behind a glory hole.
It's funny you say that, Mark, about us finishing 4 seconds apart and all that. Like the amount of people, like they think, like if you're a runner, you're a runner. Yeah. So I've done London Marathon, and people overtake me. Go, well, you're an Olympian. You should be at the front.
Yeah.
I used to run for 44 seconds. I'm no long distance runner. But the amount of time, like I do park runs, and I'll have like 10-year-old boys their parents going, beat him, boy, go on. And they're dip finishing me and all this. I'm like, yeah, he said, I've got a target on my back.
There must be an assumption if you can run 400 metres, you must beat everybody in the marathon who's not an athlete. It's ridiculous, isn't it?
I mean, to be fair, Ewan, I'm quite disappointed that you can't keep that pace up for 26 miles. What's wrong with you?
People think you can. People think if you're a runner, there's no difference between sprinting and doing long distance. But yeah, I enjoy doing longer distance now. You can run slower, but yeah, it's a shame. Yeah, that's good though. 4 seconds. I know it was 4 seconds plus 20 minutes.
It was, well, I'll go back to the numbers. I did it in 57:27. You did it in 41 minutes. So you finished. I've proper done research. I don't normally do this much, but you finished 511th out of 26,854.
Oh, come
and
on,
let's have a
that's
shout
pretty
out. Let's have a shout out to Christine Smith, who came 26,854th. By the way, I'll give her a little name check.
Well, I hope she's listening.
Yeah, exactly. So you had finished 511th, and I finished 12,853rd. So still top half. So I'll take that.
Take it. You did it. There's a lot of people
Top
who don't
half
even
in
run.
anything in life. I'm happy enough.
Well, if there's any consolation, I'd still be running if I'd started with the same time as you. So.
Baz has got. You can't tell off his internet. He's small. He's got tiny little legs. Right. Okay. So I want to go back to the Olympics because obviously a lot of people who are listening, a lot are watching. Is like that's part of your life that people want to understand about, and because 99.99% of people never experience that. So. You were at the again. Check if Wikipedia's right. You were in the Olympics at 1996 and 2000. Yeah, so Atlanta and
yeah, I got injured for 2004, which was Athens, which was a shame. But yeah, so the Atlanta Olympics. It was my first year out of university. That was at a time where it was really difficult to make the British 400 meter team because the strength and depth was really, really good. And yeah, it was weird because I came away from those Olympics and thought. Yeah, it was good, but it's just the beginning. But then, injuries take over. And in fact, Sydney, I was injured. I dropped out the 400, in 2000 and adjusted the relay. So Atlanta was as good as it got for me. But at the time, I never thought that. I thought this is my first year training. I'll only get better come the next Olympics or the one after that. But it's just a life lesson where I think if something's in front of you, you have an opportunity. Don't think about tomorrow, take it, because you don't know what's around the corner. And for me, as I said, Atlanta was actually as good as it got. Whereas at the time, I thought, oh, this is amazing. It's just the start of my journey. But in essence, it was probably the beginning of the end, which is quite sad.
Sorry, I'm just laughing. You just say that you don't know what's around the corner, but you used to run the bend, didn't you?
Yeah. That's the thing, Baz.
I'm glad you finished that sentence, Baz, because he was like, Ewan was going like quite a bit melancholy about it and going like, you don't know, it's like, it was the beginning of the end. And you just started laughing. But thankfully, you were laughing at your own joke.
Know,
so
exactly.
It was all right. It was all right. You weren't laughing at what Ewan said. You were laughing at your own joke, and that's fine.
You don't have to be the brightest to be a 400 metre run. You start there, you finish there, you just run around in a circle. It's not us.
What is it like to... God, this sounds like a bit of an Alan Partridge question, but what's it like to go to the Olympics? But no, just kind of paint a little picture for us of like what it's. So all we see is what we see on telly. So what do you like? What is it like? Meeting up with the team, getting on the plane, going to Athletes Village, what's all
It's
because that's something you've worked to achieve.
Yeah,
like your whole younger life.
Sure. I mean, the Olympics is a pinnacle for any sports person. That's the creme de la creme to get there. And I just remember being overwhelmed. Village. For a start, you couldn't walk around the village. It's too big. So they had to public transport, little buses shuttled you around. I think Sega sponsored those games. So there was like a games room where, imagine as a kid, you go to an arcade place and your parents are like, you could have £2. You go, when your money's gone, it's gone. Everything's free. So you've got the latest and the greatest games. You got free McDonald's. It's like within the Olympic Village. For me,
health food.
Biggest, health food. The biggest thing was the Olympic Village canteen. I remember sitting there. It was almost like the freak show of who's who. So you could sit there and you'll have someone like Shaq O'Neal would walk in, like, you're talking like a 7-foot giant. And then you might be sitting opposite a 4-foot nothing Russian gymnast. But that 4'0" gymnast, I know, is the best in the world at what they do because that's what they're there. But it was literally small, stocky, skinny, tall, all shapes and sizes. You were mixing with all these people, but I just loved it. It was such an eye opener. But I remember Atlanta, I was sharing an apartment with Linford Christie, Darren Campbell, Jamie Bulsh. I shared a room with a Scottish sprinter called Ian Mackey. I remember we got to about day 5. Bearing in mind we'd been in Tallahassee for the month before to acclimatise, get over jet lag. We're in peak condition. I was in the shape of my life. I was training well. And I remember I got to about day 4 in the Olympic Village, and I was a bit quiet, watching TV in our apartment. Jamie Bulsh said, "You're right." I went, "No, I'm not, mate." I said, "It's a bit embarrassing, but I'm gonna have to go see the team doctor. I can't believe I've got ill. 3 days before the 400 heats." He goes, "What's the matter?" So I don't really want to say anything. He goes, "Go on, tell me what's up." I said, "It's my shit. I'm shitting green. My shit is green, mate. Something's wrong." And everyone fell around laughing. They went, "You've been using the Powerade machine a lot." There was outside our apartment where we had 3 Powerades, and I was literally living on yellow and blue Powerades, and it just turned my innards all. So there was nothing wrong with it whatsoever, but too much sport, and you'll shit green. And I usually thought my Olympic dream was over before it started. Of course, I'm lurgy, but it was all good, and it ended up being, as I said, a great Olympic Games. I made the final for the 400, which a lot of people always thought, no, it's your first ever year, full-time training, not going to make it. And it was a bit random because I had lane 8 in the final. And in many people's eyes, that's the worst lane because you're on the outside, you're running blind in terms of the stagger doesn't unwind until the last sort of 120. And bearing in mind, there's 110,000 people. This is before mobile phones, really. There were phones, but it was flash bulbs everywhere from Michael Johnson in lane 4. And like when the gun went, it was just like I was blinded by all these lights. I was right by the outside, and I remember everyone saying to me the night before, "You're going to be all right with lane 8." I went, "Yeah, I'll be fine," because what had happened that year, really weird twist of events. My race agent, a lot of times in the season, got me lane 8. And I said, "I don't want lane 8." He said to me, "You'll never know where you get it. You learn to run from every lane." And I got lane 8, and I didn't panic because I was used to it. But I just missed out on a medal. I came 5th, and everyone was, "Oh my God, you were at university last year, you must be buzzing." And I was really disappointed. I thought I could have got a medal, and I did come away with a medal in the 4x4. We smashed the European record, and that was kind of like the beginning for me, that 96. I felt a lot of joy from what happened at those games, but I also felt the real pain of not getting an individual medal, and that's where I sort of really kicked on again with my training. So yeah, I learned so much from those Atlanta Olympics, and a big thanks to Roger Black as well, who kind of looked out for me a bit. We were rivals, but I think he knew that was the last time, and in fact it was the last season that he beat me. He took a brilliant silver in that final, and I came 5th. And I remember on the BBC interview afterwards, he gracefully said, "I had to do it now because kids like this behind me, he's going to be beating me before I know it. Ewan's got so much talent." And I remember coming back from that interview thinking, how nice, how humble of him, because Roger was a little bit posher than us. He was a little bit different to a lot of the athletes, and I really took to him, and I'll always be grateful for the kind of advice and big brother way he was with me. But we were from different worlds really, but he was a decent guy.
Are you still in contact with not necessarily Roger, but sort of your teammates from your era of running? Do you still kind of like get together, or is there any sort of meetups that you do?
Well, funnily enough, the 4x4, us 4 who came silver in that Olympic final, we met up about 2 or 3 months ago, and it was the first time we'd all been together properly for probably 20 odd years.
Yeah,
and we just met in a boozer near Waterloo in London, and we just got on it, and it was just so nice because one of the misconceptions, even maybe from himself, but Mark Richardson, I would say it was always my biggest rival. Like, he was a fantastic athlete, and we weren't necessarily the best of friends in the 400, but then we were teammates in the 4x4. And a lot of people think I don't like Mark, or I didn't respect Mark, but I actually had a lot of love for Mark, and I probably was a little bit, not harsh towards him, but he was my main rival, so we weren't really best of friends because I was threatened by him because he was that good. So it was really nice to clear the air, and I that night I had a couple of beers with him. I said, "You do realise I think you were the most talented athlete I raced?" And he was like, "Do you think so?" I was like, "Yeah, mate, you were really good." You know, and it was quite nice for us to all meet years later as old men and sort of chat through what we thought about one another. And yeah, it's good.
Yeah, but none of them were quicker than you, though, were they?
No, but, no, they weren't quicker. But you know, Roger would say he was a better athlete than me, and you could argue he won more medals than me. I'd argue I had 3 years, and my body broke, and I got injured and retired.
Yeah.
You know, I could argue I'm faster than him, but you know, I think we all had our different merits. Like Jamie Walsh, for example, I never really felt threatened by Jamie. In fact, we were teammates. Sorry, not just teammates. We were roommates. We choose to share rooms at every championship. And people were like, but you race each other. I was like, yeah, he's my mate. But put Jamie in a relay, God, I wouldn't want to race him. Put Jamie in the indoor track, it'd kick my ass. 99 all the time, 100% of the time. I could never have beaten Jamie Walsh indoors over 400 metres. But, you know, I respect all of them. They all have different strengths.
That's a really interesting thing. Obviously, as a 400 metre runner, you've got the... ultimately, it's an individual race more often than not. And you've got to train and you've got to think, I've got to beat absolutely everyone. You've got to get that mindset and, you know, all the marginal gains that elite athletes need. And it's like, I've got to shut everything off. I've really got to focus. I've got to be the one. So I can kind of understand you not being best mates with me, because most of the time you are just going to be, I've got to beat fucking everyone. I don't care who you are. I've got to be so determined, because to get to the level of sport that you were at, and clearly I'm a fucking expert at what it takes to be an elite sportsman, but to get to that level of sport, you've got to be ruthless and you've got to do all that kind of stuff. So
100%.
the kind of here comes a posh word, the juxtaposition between that and being teammates and wanting them to, you know, do everything for them at the same event, at the same Olympics. That must be mad to deal with.
The best and worst example of it is 1998 European Championships in Budapest. It was definitely between me and Mark Richardson to be European champion. He'd beaten me 5 times that year. I'd only beaten him once, but I knew my strength was my strength. So Mark was a brilliant athlete. On the one-off races, he could run quick. But I knew when it came to 3 rounds in 3 days, no one trained as hard as me. I put it out there. No one trained as hard as me. And that's probably why my body broke. But I beat him in the 400 final, and he came 3rd, and he was devastated. I'd ruined his dream. I'd shattered everything he'd worked towards that year, whereas I was doing my lap of honour. And next day, we have to meet up for the 4x4. And it was an awkward conversation, and I actually hope he respects me for this, but I did something I think very, very graceful or nice. Everyone wants to run the last leg in the 4x4. It's the glory leg. You run the fastest split, you take the baton moving, you come through the line, you're the champion. We were going to be European champions in the 4x4. We were the best team by far. And I remember I said to Mark, I said, do you want last leg? And he went, I'd love to. I said, you're going to run last leg today, mate. And I ended up doing 2nd or 3rd leg, and I didn't really want to do 2nd or 3rd leg. I wanted to do last leg, but there was something inside of me that felt sorry for Mark, because I knew how much I would be hurting if the night before he'd become European champion and I hadn't. So although we weren't best of friends, I had massive respect for him. And as you said, it's a strange dynamic where you go from, I want to fucking kill you, I hate you, I'm gonna ruin you in the next 44 seconds, to the next day, come on mate, run the best leg of your life, let's smash it, you know. So yeah, enemies, best friends.
It must have helped.
It was a range of emotions.
It must have helped that you were clutching the gold medal when you said it, right?
Were you holding it up like this?
Yeah.
Do you want to go last?
Just swinging it like that and just going, do you want to do like, I don't give a shit.
Yeah,
do you want to do the last leg? I've already got one.
Especially if you had the gold and you had the silver, you might not have been as gracious.
Maybe not. But no, I just kind of felt for him that day. I wanted him to come away from those championships feeling. Maybe I shouldn't have wanted him to feel good, but I did. You know, as I said, I'm not a horrible person. I wasn't the nicer pit of people when it came to racing me. Like, I was one of those people who could raise their game and become a bit of an animal when it came to racing. But I'm honestly, I'm the nicest guy there is, and I really felt sorry for him.
So you're currently still involved in the sport, because when I spoke to you before, you said you were off to the World Championships because you do trackside now, don't you?
Yeah. So
I saw you on the TV a few times. I saw you shouting at who won the The 400 at the recent World Championships, or is it 800?
No, I don't know. British guy, Matt Hudson-Smith came second. You probably saw me
Oh,
shout at him.
No, there was no someone else. The guy with the glasses who was a 1500 metre champion.
This year, just gone.
Yeah.
Josh Kerr won the 1500.
Yeah, because I saw you on TV
that.
and like he was sort of shouting at you across the track.
Yeah.
Because obviously,
sorry, Ewan. This has turned into a fucking question of sport.
No.
It's like that home and away. It's like home. I'll take a question on athletics. It's complicated shit.
Yeah.
Hold on.
Yeah.
It's nothing to do with that. I've got the worst memory for names in the world because I'm old. So, yeah.
No, it was Josh Kerr, and I think the job I do now, which is the infield host for the big screen in the crowds, I absolutely love it because I get so close to the action. It's the closest I'm going to get to being a world-class athlete ever again. So, I really enjoy it. It's a good gig, and it's just nice to be involved in the sport still. I love it. But yeah, this year was Budapest, which also was nice because the race I previously talked about, where I became European champion, that was Budapest. And then fast forward 25 years, in fact, my 25-year anniversary of being European champion happened during the World Championships. And they put a little montage of me run on the screen, which was lovely. Half the athletes thought, who's this bloody old bloke in the middle of the screen talking? It can't be the same guy. But it was nice to be back in Budapest. So there's certain places, with all of us, I'm sure you've been places which hold a big place in your heart, and Budapest for me was one of those places.
Yeah, most of those are pubs for me, but
yeah, well, yeah, me too now.
So I want to take you back to the Athletes' Village, because when I was doing research on the Olympics and the Athletes' Village, I was like, this is all good, but we need to get a bit mildly controversial about it.
Come on, yeah, back to the subject.
So there were some stats that I found out about the Athletes' Village. That is, apparently in 1996, when you were there was 15,000 condoms supplied to the Athletes' Village for 10,000 athletes. Right? So the first question I've got is
14,000 were mine.
Yeah, well, nice. My first question is, if there's 1.5 each, you're either cutting the second one in half, you're taking turns using it, or you toss for it. I couldn't even say that without laughing myself. I wrote that joke myself.
I never knew that stat, but it's the one thing I get asked more than anyone. Gordon, what really happens here? Listen, you got a lot of fit people who've been away, warm over training, acclimatising, away from home for a long time. I don't think it's a shag fest that people think it is. I'm going to bore you now, and I'm going to disappoint you. I've heard stories of years gone by. I won't say names and records and things that have happened, but you're there to do what you want to do, what you train all year for, and as soon as it's over, you go out and party 100%. But our downfall was the 4x4 traditionally was always the last event in the Olympic Games.
Yeah, of course it was.
Always the last event.
So all the condoms have gone by the time you got to them.
There you go. All we did, the four of us actually, this is really boring, but it was quite nice. The four of us just went out and got smashed in a pub in Atlanta. Yeah. There's no real gossip to it. I think we were, a lot of it, I was young, Jamie was young, we were just like, we're going home. Got an Olympic silver medal. I was working at Next before this, part-time job.
That's insane.
I moved to Southampton. I moved to Southampton basically. You got to remember there was no lottery funding. So when I finished uni, my parents were like, what do you want to do? And all I knew is I didn't want to get a real job. And I just said to my dad, it's the only chance I can move to Southampton to live near Mike Smith, who was my coach. I'd been going there once a week when I was at uni. And he said, listen, if you promise me you'll knuckle down, let's give it a go. Let's give it this winter, see if you can make the Olympic Games, but I'll pay your rent. You've got to get a part-time job. Just to clarify, when he said he paid my rent, I lived in a shithole. I lived in a little bedsit in a rough end of Southampton. But I was grateful. I had a roof over my head, and I got a job working in Next. So I used to work from 8 till 5, and then go home, get a bit of food, go straight to training. And that whole year, out of respect to my mum and dad who were paying my rent, I literally trained my heart out every single training session. And I just got quicker and quicker and came away with an Olympic silver. And I signed a 4-year deal with a shoe company with ASICS. And I jacked my job in, didn't have to go back, bought my first house, and I know it sounds bullshit, but my life changed overnight. Coming back from those Olympic Games, everything changed. which was brilliant. I loved it.
The era that you ran in was like it was a golden era for athletics, wasn't it? I mean, there were most of the big names that I remember from your era of running, and I'm guessing as well you kind of joined that group of people, particularly in this country, of being people that came back with medals, which was a success because we weren't. As a British team, we weren't that high up in the order that part of the 90s. It wasn't until later that we started getting higher. But yeah, you were part of that kind of group of people that started to become winning athletes. You could compete at Olympic level.
I think I was lucky as well. I think it's sort of athletics back then. We didn't have 401 channels on television, and it was mainstream, and success leads to success. And, it was a golden generation. It really was, from Jonathan Edwards, Steve Barclay, Colin Jackson's, Denise Lewis, Sally Gunnels. There was a whole bunch of really good athletes. Whereas today, and I mean this with huge respect, I think 90% of the British athletics team could walk down the street and no one would know who they are.
Yeah,
and that's not disrespecting their performances, because we've got some great athletes at the moment. Keely Hodgkinson, Dina Asher-Smith, Josh Kerr, Jake Whiteman, Madison Smith. You've got some really good athletes, but I just don't think they get the coverage that we did. It's different now. Of course, social media plays a big part. We didn't have anything like that. But I just think I was of a generation where, I give you the example, in 1998, to make the European Championship team, Roger Black didn't make it. He came fourth in the British Championships, running 44.6. 44.6 would have got you a silver medal in the London Olympic Games.
Yeah.
The strength and depth in my event was so good. The top 5 in Britain were in the top 10 in the world. So I was just around at a really tough time, but it was a good time, because I actually think if I'd been around at a time where, 44.9 made me the British champion by a million miles, perhaps subconsciously I would have not trained as hard, or I would have been complacent. But, just to make the British team, you had to be fucking on it.
Yeah,
we had to train. I trained so hard every day.
Well, I guess as well that at a world level, Michael Johnson was around when you.
Yeah, I was going to say. He was, yes.
I mean, that's a bit fucking hard, isn't it? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Do you know
that's not really fair.
Yeah, not content with being 200 metres. You had to go do the 4 as well, didn't you?
Yeah, the thing the thing about him is, like, I actually really like him, and I actually really respect him as a pundit. I think he's bloody good on
very
TV.
good,
yeah.
But for people who aren't of our age, they're like, "Who was around during you?" And I said, "Listen, Usain Bolt, I used to race someone as good as him, and Johnson was that good.
Absolutely.
He was amazing, and half of me thinks, fucker, I wish he wasn't around when I was around. But then I also think, actually, it was a good time to be around, because he brought a lot of eyes to my event. People used to watch my event, and I as a skinny, ginger-haired white kid, I would stand out in the 400 metres as well, because, with all due respect, the majority of the best 400 metre runners were black athletes. And I don't mean that in a disrespectful way or a difficult way whatsoever, but the 400 metres was quite a cool event. And me and Roger Black and Mark and Jamie were waving the flag for Britain, and of course Dwayne Ledejo. There was other good athletes as well. So I think I'm kind of grateful to Michael Johnson for putting the spotlight on my event.
Weirdest running style I've ever seen, though.
Weirdest running style. He'll argue with you over 100. It was the most efficient running style, and that upright laid back, it was the way to run. And who am I to argue against him? The guy could run 19.3 for the 200.
I mean, if the best person in the world at anything, if you're arguing with the best person in the world about anything, saying you're not doing this right, it's like, fuck off. I definitely am.
And of course, his argument would be, look, I'll race you for it. Oh, fuck off.
It's like, I think you might find you're doing it wrong, because I've got fucking loads of gold medals.
Yeah, he was brilliant. Yeah, it was a joy to run against him.
Sorry, going back to you, look, when you said that you were had a disappointingly average experience in the Olympic Village.
You're fascinated by this.
I'm not fascinated by it. I'm just a bit upset, because I was hoping that as an Olympic silver medalist, the athletes' village was the only place you would have managed to come first.
Oh, very good. Very
Thanks,
good.
mate.
Very good. I did on the final night get chased by the police though for hot wiring, because basically in the Olympic Village in Atlanta, it was so big they had like golf buggies, golf carts to drive the athletes around. And Darren Campbell, the sprinter who was from Moss Side, he was like, I know, it's a hot wire, these bad boys. I'm like, how'd you do that? And back in the day, it was the old cans of Coke with the ring pull. So basically, he showed me where you lift the seat up, basically without a key, you then take the rim pull of a can of Coke and you break it in half and you put it, he showed me where to put it, and it basically causes an earth or whatever it does. And you could hot wire and nick a golf buggy. Anyway, so the last night, I'd had a couple of jars and I fancied a McDonald's. Where we lived was far from the canteen. So I remember Darren Campbell had taught me how to hot wire one of these. So I did. And I'd been seen by the security, and they chased me in their golf buggy, and I was in the golf buggy, and I actually crashed into the wall of McDonald's and jumped, and he didn't catch me, obviously. I just done a runner and got away with it. So, I got done for, well, I didn't get done, I didn't get caught for it, but I actually crashed a golf cart into the McDonald's wall on the final night. So it doesn't involve any females, I do apologise, but it was quite rock and roll.
No, that's incredible. But I love the fact that there's just this really shit. It's the slowest police chase since OJ. Do you know what I mean? There's two golf carts going, and it's like, it's all right, we've got him, and you get out, and he goes, oh, we're fucked now. He's really quick.
I like the fact though,
what happened.
I like the fact that so if he'd have run past 400 metres, though, he would have caught you, wouldn't he? Because you'd be fucked after that.
Yeah, exactly. Go on then, keep running, son. If he'd have been like blowing out his heart, going, woo, woo. It's all right, mate. I'll catch up with you after a mile. We'll do this. If he'd have committed to it, he would have caught him.
The only tattoo I've ever covered up is my Olympic rings. I've got rid of it. And honestly, a lot of people are shocked by that, because I've got lots of tats. And when I got selected for Atlanta, I went to a tattoo place called Tattoo Magic in Southampton. I went, I'm going to the Olympics. Can you tattoo the Olympic rings? And fair play, the guy went, no, I'm not doing it. You come back from the Olympics and then tell me you still want that tattoo and I'll do it. And I came back with my medal, went, there's me fucking one for a tattoo. I've got a medal. He went, I'll do it. Why do you think that's the only tattoo I've ever had removed? Because you seriously, every fucker does it. Everyone's got the Olympic rings if they've been, and that's why I didn't want it.
Here's the promise then. If Baz gets the Olympic rings tattooed on his body,
There is no if.
Yeah.
you promise to come back for another episode of our podcast.
I'm going to come back anyway.
Oh shit, sorry Baz, but that's it. It's been agreed.
It's been agreed. When you're on Dictionary Corner, you have a little earpiece put in, right? When it comes to you and they say, oh, Joe from Middlesbrough, I had a 6-letter word, can you do better? And then you always notice the guest on Dictionary Corner, somebody who's very intelligent goes, yeah, you could have had an 8, sophistication, or whatever.
Yeah.
Basically, someone's in your ear and they say, if you haven't got anything better, you could have sophistication for an 8. Is 8? I don't know how many letters that is, but whatever.
I'm not even counting.